Hi, this week we're going to be making some packaging using Illustrator, which is a kind of cool thing to do. You could close that up and make a box out of it. So let's get started. So we're going to go ahead and open up the files we need this week. Say File Open, and let's go to your student files. And we're going to be using the one called Candy. I haven't unzipped mine yet, so I need to right click and say Extract All. And now that it's extracted, I can go into that one. We need the one called Square Box AIT. AIT stands for Adobe Illustrator Template. Go ahead and say Open. So let's go to Window, Workspace, make sure we're in Essentials Classic, and go back to View and say Fit Artboard to Window. And let's go over to our Layers panel. And you can see they've got it all split up for us. We're going to make a new folder. That's where we're going to do all of our work on. And let's call that background. Okay, pick up your background layer. You can pick it up by the actual word and drag it below die cut. Because die cut is showing us where it's going to actually cut it out of the paper. Make sure you're on the actual background layer and then say File, Place. And we need to go back to our Candy folder and get the one called Background TIFF. Click on that once and then make sure nothing is selected here and say Place. Now what it's going to do you see it's kind of on my cursor? If I were to click it, it's going to place it. So kind of put it over here and place. You can kind of move it up so it's about right there. So that's a good place for it. Make sure it's selected. And we're going to go up here in Properties and click that top left reference point. So we can tell at the top left of this we need you to be at 0. So 0 and hit Enter. And it moved it just a little bit. I was pretty close. And then on Y, we need it to be exactly at 5 inches. So just type 5, Enter. That's where the book wants it to be exactly. Okay, so now turn the eyeballs off of everything except for background so we can just see that. And make sure you're still on the background layer. If you're in the correct workspace, you should see this up here, and you're going to click on Image Trace. And it's going to pop up this black and white thing. So what it's doing is taking this picture, which is made up of a bunch of pixels, and it is turning it into a vector for us. Now if you don't see that little image trace thing, you can go up to Window and click on Image Trace and find it in here, and it'll pop it up. But you should be able to see it if you're in the correct workspace. So up here is our little image trace thing. And we don't really want it to look black and white right here. So we need to click on this little button right here, and that's the Image Trace panel. If you can't find that, just go to Window and open up that Image Trace, and that will bring it up too. And it's got all these little presets for what we want this image trace to do. We're going to go to the default and say Low Fidelity Photo. And it's going to do a little bit of work. And that's kind of what it's going to look like. So right now it has taken that photo and it turned it into 150 colors. We want to kind of change that a little bit. So instead of a full tone palette, we're going to go to a limited palette. And it's got to do a little bit of work. And you'll see it's going to change this from 1,000 to only 30, which is about what we want. Now turn off this little preview just because it uses up a lot of stuff on our, it messes up our computer. Open up this Advanced tab. If you just click right here on the little caret swirl down, it's going to open that up, and we need to change some of these. So what it's saying is, how many paths do we want? Let's up that to 75. Oop. Let's change the corners to 25%. We don't want it to be quite as, have these little jagged ridges on it. And we want to bring the noise down to 5. And you can see the changes that it's made. So a couple things about this panel. One, you remember this is this little, you can move this out of the way if it's getting in your way. I'm going to click preview back on. There's a couple of things. If you go up here to tracing results and change this to tracing with outlines, you can see, do you see that it's actually made us, it's turning that into vectors. So that's a good way to kind of just look at it. And I put it back on tracing results. And this little eyeball, you can see that's what it looked like before. The photo had millions and millions of pixels. We're changing it into a vector, so it looks kind of different. So that's just to show you the different things that we want to do there. Now, when you're finished with the image trace and you've got it the way you want, you have to click expand. So once you've hit expand, you see we made all of these into little separate vectors. So always remember to hit expand when you're done. Let's go ahead and save this. So you can kind of close this image trace down and let's go ahead and save. So say File, Save As. And I'm going to put this in my work in progress folder. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, do you see how this says AI right now? If you click Save Cloud Document, it's going to open this up and it's going to save it as an AIC file. And it's saving it to your Creative Cloud. That is, you can't turn in an AIC file to me because that goes to your Creative Cloud. I do not have access to that. So always make sure if this comes up, you are not really saving it here. You can save it there if you want to use it on a different computer. That's fine, but when you turn it in, you need to save it on your computer. So always make sure it kind of looks like this and that it says AI file. So I'm going to go back and find my work in progress folder, and I'm going to make a new folder. That's stuff from last week I haven't put in a folder yet. Robert's Candy. I'm going to be a little bit more organized. And let's call this Amy Roberts Candy Packaging. Now with the selection tool, make sure nothing is selected. So just select off the artboard so nothing is selected. And let's open up our swatches panel. And then get your eyedropper tool, and I want you to choose this darkest red that's kind of right there. That's a little too dark. Let's go in this piece of candy right here. And make sure this is at the top. So that is our fill X. We want to save that swatch. So if that is selected right there, we can hit the plus, and it's going to add that to our swatches. Make sure global is on, and go ahead and hit OK. Now with the eyedropper, let's go back and choose a medium pink. I think this one right here. And once again, we're going to hit the plus to make a pink color. With it again, let's choose a medium yellow. This one right here. Okay, now that you've got those, you can close the swatches and let's go back to our layers. And right above back, make sure you have background selected and then click the plus 2 times to make 2 new layers. We're going to rename the top layer to side 1 and the second layer is side 2. Let's go ahead and save, Control S. Okay, so let's turn everything back on so we can kind of see all of this, and make sure you are on the side 1, and we need to make a rectangle. So just go grab a rectangle, the rectangle tool, and click once somewhere in here. And it's going to ask us what size do we want to make it. And this needs to be, make sure this is unlinked. This needs to be 3.75. Hit tab, and then you can put a 1 for 1 inch and hit OK. And it has created a box for us. Now, because we were just choosing that yellow color, it made it yellow. Let's go back over to our swatches, and instead of yellow, make sure you have fill selected. We're going to give it that red color that we made. So grab your direct selection tool, and let's make sure that that is in the center. You can wait until you see that little yellow thing appear, and make sure it's lining up with that line that I have. So it's in the center. That looks good. Now we need to add a little point to there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So get your pen tool, and when you see that it's intersecting with the center, so when you get to intersect, click, and it's added a point right there. We can now get our direct selection tool and just drag that in to kind of make a little flag. So the best way to do this is with the reflect tool. And it should be right here under the shaper tool. Right now mine looks like a little circle. If you click and hold it down, you're going to see the reflect tool. Then when the reflect tool comes on, do you see that little thing that's in the center? That's saying, where do you want me to reflect from? Before it was reflecting from the center, but I don't want it to reflect from there. Pick that up. Oop. Alt or Option will let you pick that up and drag it over to the corner. So that's kind of what we want. We want it to reflect like that. However, we want two of them. So just click Copy. So now it has our original and the second one that it made. And you can still see that little point it reflected from right there. So now we have this little cool little banner thing. I'm going to go back to the layers and turn everything back on so we can see. So this one is in this side and this was in this side. So let's open back up side 2. By the way, make sure you're back in the selection tool so you don't accidentally rotate anything. So this path actually needs to be in side 2. So I'm just using the eyeball to make sure I'm on the right one. This one right here, you need to pick it up and put it in side 2. So that makes sense now. That was in side 2 and the other one is in side 1. So now let's make sure we're on side 1. So just make sure that that layer is selected and grab your type tool and make sure that you are not on a path. If you see that little circle, that's wrong. Make sure you're inside where the fill is and just click on that once. And you're going to type Smart. Now go back and get your direct selection tool. Make sure that is selected. And we're going to go down here in Properties. And instead of Mirrored Pro, we need to choose ATC Garnet. Now these are part of the Against the Clock fonts that we loaded. So ATC stands for Against the Clock. We need to choose Ultra. And we're going to make it 60 points. And here in Paragraph, which is right underneath this, you can click Right Aligned. Now while this is still selected, you can go right here in the Properties panel and click on Fill, and let's change that to white. And with our direct selection tool, you can pick it up and move it so that it's touching the little line. Now while that's still selected, you can go up to Edit, Copy, or you can say Control C. Then go back up to Edit and say Paste in Place. And what it's done is, you see it's got two of them. It put them on top of each other, right in place. So pick up that one that says Smart, the top one, and let's move that down to side 2. And on that one, we need it to be left aligned. Now you can see it's kind of getting cut off a little bit. So you can just use your arrow keys to move that over until it's there. Now we want those to kind of look like they're the same word. So I'm going to go back over to the Smart word and use my arrow keys on my keyboard to just kind of move it over a little bit. So right now it says Smart, Smart. We're going to go to the second Smart and change it to say Tarts instead of Smart. Now, before we keep going, as graphic designers, do you see that the kerning looks a little bit weird? The R and the T are too close together. So here on Tarts, I'm going to put my cursor right between the R and the T. And I think this is easy. You can do this in two places. You can do it here in properties, or you can open up your character window. Either way, I'm going to go ahead and open up my character window. It's under type, character. I'm going to go ahead and dock this over here. So kerning is either right here, and you can see it's here. So you can use it either way. I'm just going to kind of move them a little bit apart. You see how that looks better now in tarts? So I've got mine at about 30. And then let's do the same thing on smart. So click once between the R and the T, and you can kern that one over. We'll just put that one on 32. I'm sorry, on 30 also. So that looks a lot better. So let's go to the word tarts and grab your type tool and select right after the S. And we need to add a little trademark point. We need to add a little trademark on the end of this, but we can't, you can't just type that. So we need to use something called glyphs. So go up to Window, Type, Window, Type, Glyphs. And if you go down about halfway, you'll see there is the trademark. Double click on that, and it has added the trademark. Now it's a little big, so just click and drag backwards until that is selected. And let's make that 48 points. It should be in white because that's what we had selected. And then in your character window, if you can't see the baseline shift, you also can't see it here. You can either click this little more options to open it, and it'll be down here. Don't say that. So in the character window, I want you to click right here in the hamburger menu and say show options. You see how you have more choices? We need to go to this baseline shift right here and change this to 10. So baseline shift is like, say if you typed my birthday is August 26th and you wanted the TH to be up a little bit higher or a little bit lower. That's what baseline shift is. We need that to be on 10. So you see it's up a little bit higher, like if you said the 26th. So we can close down glyphs now if we want. Let's go to our layers panel and select right here at the top of side 1 so that make sure all of those are selected, and say object group, or you can say Control G. Now we need to go to side 2 and say group. So those are both in groups. So let's go back to side 1. So while you still have side 1 selected, you're going to go up to Effect, Warp, and just go ahead and choose the first arc. And you see it does this little weird thing to it. There's all kind of different choices you can make, a bulge, and you can look at those if you want. The one that we need to choose is the one called Arch. And we're going to change this from 50 to -32. And hit OK. So that's looking fun. Let's turn off everything, all the eyeballs except for that one, so we can just see that. And we're going to make this 3D, so make sure it's still selected. I'm going to grab my selection tool just so I don't type anything else. And let's go up to Window, go to Effect, 3D and Materials, Extrude and Bevel. And it might take a second for this to open. You're going to have 3D materials open. Make sure you're on Object, and Extrude and Bevel should be clicked right here. And it's making it look 3D. We need to change the depth just a little bit. So change that from what it's at now to 0.7. Now while you're in this, do you see this weird little round thing? That is a viewer. So if you pick that up and start moving it around, look, you can see it is 3D. And this can actually be, sent into 3D programs and things. So the way you get that, you can change it the way just visually, or you can change it specifically. So let's do what the book wants. Down here in rotation, we need the X to be at 20. Y to be at 0, and Z to be at 0. So in the world of 3D, you're probably familiar with X and Y from geometry class, and Z would be, you know, far away and closer. So that's what X, Y, and Z means in 3D. So another thing that's cool while you're in here is click on lighting. And you can kind of mess with these. It may take your computer around, but it's kind of showing you how it's going to change the light depending on where you are. If we go all the way down to the bottom, let's make sure you're on standard. And we need to make the intensity 90%. Rotation is fine at 145. Height is fine at 45. All of this stuff. And then ambient light, we need to turn that to 100. So you can go ahead and close the 3D and materials now, and let's save, just because our computer's been having to work hard on that. So go ahead and save, Control S, and let's turn on the eyeball for side 2. And so we can see the differences between the two, definitely different. There's something called the appearance panel, and it should be right above your layers. If you don't see it, go to Window Appearance. And if you open that up, let's make it a little bit bigger, you can see all of these things that it's added to this, the word smart, or the layer smart. So we want tarts to look the same. So we could save this appearance and then drag it over there. I'm going to show you how to kind of automate that. If you go back to your layers, and do you see how that target right there, do you see it says click to target, drag to move appearance? You click and Alt, and it dragged that down. Do you see there's a little plus sign? It now added that same appearance. See how it's got that little round thing around it? It's added that appearance to the second group. If we go back on side 2 and look in appearance, you can see it has added all of that stuff to both of them. So once again, how I did that is I clicked on I hovered over right here and then said Alt and drug it down to that second group so that they're both the same. So now let's make sure that we're selected on side 2. So make sure that it's highlighted. And let's go back to our appearance panel. And we want to change this arch that we made so it's a little bit different on the tarts word. So just double click on arch and it's going to bring that back up. You remember how we had it at -32. On this one, we want it to be on just regular 32. See? Aha! And hit OK. Now they're the opposite of each other. Now if you zoom in a little bit, they're going to be just a tad off. So I'm going to click on tarts and just use the arrow keys on my keyboard to get those lined up perfectly. I think that's looking pretty good. Let's go to our layers panel. Now we've got everything turned off but side 1 and side 2. Let's go ahead and lock the background, and we're going to lock, I don't want you to lock up here where it says side 1. I want you to lock group 1 and lock group 2. Make sure you're on slide 1. Make sure you're on side 1. And we're going to go grab our pen tool. And we need to have no fill. So I'm going to click on fill and say none. And we want a black stroke. And we're going to draw an arch that is similar to what we already have. Now realize if you're not great with the pen tool, you can always go back and fix it. Mine looks pretty good. When you're done with it, hit escape. And then I'm just going to go back and fix this. I'm going to grab the direct selection tool and kind of make it look better. So when you get it the way you want it, that looks pretty good. So with the selection tool, make sure that is still selected. And we're going to get our eraser tool, which is right here. Double click on the eraser tool so we can change it, and change the size to about 8 and hit OK. And then we just need to kind of separate these. So put it, you know, between the two T's and just click once. And it just erased that line, so we have two separate lines. Okay, so get your direct selection tool back. And this top path is the one that should be on the first side. But this second path goes with the other side. So pick up the second path and drag that down into side 2. Because that's the way it should be. If we were to turn them on and off, you'd see that one goes with that one. So we need to type some stuff on here, but before we do that, make sure nothing is selected and go ahead and click on Type on Path tool, and let's go ahead and make it correct before we start typing, because, you know, that'll just make it easier. Go ahead and choose Default Fill and Stroke, but then go to your swatches panel, and we want, for the fill, we're going to choose that red we made. And for stroke, we want none. Now in your character panel, we want to use ATC Coral, which is against the clock coral. We're going to make it 24 points. Your baseline shift is probably set at 10 because that's the last thing we use, so go ahead and put that back at 0. Now the paragraph panel should be right behind character. Click on that and go ahead and have it align to the right. You can also do it right here in properties. So you could pretty much do most of this in properties if you want. So now we've got that set up right to type. We're going to click right here on this path. Do you see when it highlights, it knows it's on that path? So when you see the little word path appear, go ahead and click once. And it's going to put some words there for us. And we're going to type a sweet, fruity, sweet, comma, fruity treat. Sweet, fruity trip. So we're still in the type tool, but we don't want to be typing on this line anymore. So click Control and just click anywhere off of that. So it's not selected. Let go of Control and we have our path tool back again. Now I want you to click on this second path. Wait until you see the word path. And this time we're going to try with a sour zip exclamation point. The only difference with this, let's click and highlight all of them and change them to left aligned. You see this little line right here? I'm just going to click it and pull it over so that it's lining up. Let's go ahead and save again, Control S. So now let's go back over into the Layers panel and turn everything back on just so we can see how this is lining up. So a couple things that I'm noticing is I need my words to be a little bit closer to the SmartArts words. With my selection tool, I'm going to choose the first line and I'm going to click Shift and choose the second line. And I'm just going to move those with my arrow key down so they're closer to the word SmartArt. So now let's unlock these two group ones, the one with the red little swoosh on it. Select all of side 1, Shift, select all of side 2, and let's kind of move it up so that it's not interfering with the background, but you need to make sure that it is not going outside of those blue lines because that's where our box is going to cut off. So just try to make the words a sweet trip, make that above the white. So we're just moving it up a little bit. Let's go ahead and save again. So at this point we need to make sure everything is locked. Click on the word background and then click Create New Layer. And that's going to be side 3. And side 3 is going to be this center box right here. So let's go get the rectangle tool. And we need to go to Default Fill and Stroke and then turn off Stroke and just draw a rectangle that fills this entire box. So you see when it says anchor, you can click and drag down until you see the other anchor, and it should be 4 by 4 inches. And go ahead and let go, and we have made a box. And you can look over here and see it should be 4 by 4 inches. So it looks like I did a pretty decent job making it correct. So now grab your selection tool and make sure that box is selected. And we're going to go to File, Place, and go back to your files from this week. And get the one called Box Copy. And it's a text file. Make sure none of these are selected and hit Place. All of this is fine. And it's going to load it up into there. Go to where the little blue box is where it says, and make it say intersect. So that's telling you it's inside the margins. Go ahead and select it down until you see that it's at the bottom of that little margin box. And it has pasted all of that in there for us. So with your type tool, go ahead and select all of that text. And we're going to change this to ATC Coral. Make it 12.5 font. And this is the leading, that's the space between all of the lines. We're going to put that as 17 points. All right, get your selection tool and make sure that box is selected again. Make sure the text box is still selected and go back to File, Place. And this time grab the one that's called Anniversary 75. Make sure link is not selected, but we do need to click Show Import Options. And when we click Place, it is going to ask us to have some import options, and we need to convert layers to objects. Hit OK. And it's going to load it up into this. Just go ahead and kind of click somewhere in the box, and then pick it up so that it's about 1/8 of an inch away from the edges of both. I'm going to drop it about there so it's not directly on, you don't want it to be right on those blue edges, but kind of close to them. So while that is still selected, you're going to go to Object, Text Wrap, Make. And what we just said is any text that's in this same file, wrap it around this object. So now we need to go back and adjust that a little bit. Go back to Object, Text Wrap Options, and do the offset to 12 points. And I've got preview on here. Do you see that what it's doing is that's the amount of space around the object that it is allowing for? After you hit OK, you can see we've got a couple of little problems. You see how that little fantastic. So you can just move this around a little bit until it kind of fixes. That looks better to me. Now don't let it go outside of the box or it would print wrong. That looks pretty good. Now make sure the font is selected, and let's go to Paragraph. You can find it either right here in Paragraph or it's behind your character window. Paragraph, and just turn off this hyphenate. Do you see how it's kind of hyphenating, like the word delighting is hyphenated? We tell it we don't want you to be able to do that. See, so that looks better so words are not hyphenated. All right, and that was in Paragraph. You can either do it right here underneath character window, or you can do it here in Paragraph. You just got to click these little more options and it'll pop up, and unclick hyphenate. Go ahead and save, Control S. Now let's click on the 75, but so we need to click just on the 7 of the 75. So if you click on it once, you see how it's kind of, I'm in the regular selection tool. If I click on it once and then double click it, do you see I'm in isolation mode? It tells me here I'm in isolation mode. So I just have the 7. So I see the little box around the 7, like I could move the 7 all by itself. I don't want to do that, but that's what I'm doing. So now we're going to go up to Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow. And let's change this around a little bit. Here, I'll move it off to the side so you can see. There's our drop shadow. Let's change it to say 50. Hit the tab. We're going to say offset of 0.02, Y offset of 0.02, and blur of 0.03. And leave it as black. So that's a little bit softer. And hit OK. If you go to this appearance panel, you can see it added the drop shadow. Well, we need to add that to the 5. So the book showed you one way to do it, which is we could go over here to the layers panel, and right now we're still in isolation mode. You can get out of that by clicking this little button, or you can just double click anywhere off of it and it'll stop. You can see we have, we could take that 7, we could go find the 7, and you see how it's got that little plus, and we could alt and drag it up to there. The book's showing you a different way if you want to do that. So if we get back into isolation mode, you can click the 7 and then click the 5 and say effect. Do you see how it kind of saved the last thing we did, which was a drop shadow? So you can apply that drop shadow. And it's going to apply the same exact drop shadow. So that's just 2 ways that you could add that appearance to that. There's one other thing we want to do with the 5. When we click on the, we still have the 5 selected. We want to change the, go to transparency. So if you click on the word opacity over here in properties, it's going to bring this up, and just change it from normal to multiply. And you see how that made it a little bit see-through, so we can kind of see through them. So we can get out of isolation mode now by double clicking. And that's, we've got the drop shadow on both of them and a transparency. Let's save again. So the last thing we need to do on this layer is we're going to grab the white box that we created, and let's change that transparency to 80%. That looks good. You can go ahead in layers menu and collapse that layer, and let's lock it. And we're now going to make a new layer and call that box top. And then we're going to move box top to above all of the other ones, because this is on the top of this box. So let me go ahead and move up to there. Let's get a text box and just kind of draw a general box in here. We'll make it the size we need in a minute. And this that's in there, we're going to change the font to be ATC Pyrite. We're going to make it 56. And the leading for this needs to be 50. And we need to choose heavy as the type of font. Now while that's still selected, you're going to say alter wacky. And let's highlight that and make it right justified. We're going to click and hold down the type tool to get this touch type tool, which is underneath the type tool. Now what the touch type tool is you can click on any singular piece of your word and deal with it separately, and it's going to adjust everything to do with it. So you could twist it. You can do all kind of crazy things with your font. So that's what it does. I'm going to undo all of that, put it back to normal. So if you clicked right here, it would rotate it. If you click right here, it's going to make it taller but not fatter. This one's going to change the horizontal. We want to grab it right here and make it so that it's about the size of both of the words. Then grab this one right here, which is going to make it thinner, and shrink it back down till the Y comes back on the screen. That looks pretty good. But you can see that the wacky part is a little bit too far away. So let's go ahead and go back and get the regular type tool and click once right next to the A. And now we can use kerning, which is this one right here in the character panel, to make it a little bit closer to the W. Now, unfortunately, it's kind of messing up the words alter up there. So it's hard to get up there with by clicking on it because the W is so huge. So use the arrow keys on your keyboard, just click up once. And do you see we're now on the top level? So now we need to just kind of kern these things together to move them over. So click to the right with your arrow key so that we're between the A and the L. And let's kern those in a negative so they get a little bit closer. Click the arrow key over 2 more. Click those over a little bit. You see it's moving that A over. And let's click the arrows over between the E and the R. I'm going to do a little bit between the L and the T. So just work with this until that A is not touching the W. Now the last thing we might want to do is I'm going to put the insertion point on the very end of the Y, and let's kern that over a little bit so it kind of moves it away from that A. There we go. That looks pretty good. So when you've got that looking pretty good, we can grab our selection tool and let's go ahead and make this type box be a little bit, we don't need it to be as big as we made it, and we can pick this up and put it in the center. Now while that is selected, go up to Window and go all the way to the bottom. Graphics Style Libraries, Scribble Effects. And it's going to pop up these. And for this, while this is selected, we're just going to click on that top Scribble Effects, the very first one. Boom. Okay, now we need to make another text box. So make sure you're selected off of that box. And let's go ahead and change this to what it needs to be before we make our text box. So, you know, it'll be better. So we're going to change it to ATC Coral at 15 points. Leading should be 18. And we're going to go ahead and make the color of it this pink color that we chose at the beginning of the project. So when we put our font there, it's going to look just like that. So click your type tool and just click once right here. It's going to throw that on there, and we're going to call it, say, Candy Company. Now it looks like it remembered everything except for my fill, so that's okay. I'm just gonna, if you double click once, it gets the word. If you triple click, it gets the whole line. So I'm just gonna make sure those are selected. You can also just click and drag over them and make sure it's that pink color. There we go. And we want to center that. And let's pick that up and kind of tuck it in this little section. And now that you see that, if you want, you could go and grab the type tool and make this W just a tad bigger. So that it kind of makes that, lets that touch in there, click in there. So that looks kind of good. So you're going to click and drag over both of these. And we need to group these together. You can either say Control G, you could go up to Object Group, or you can click right here in your little panel that floats around. So group those together. If we go to our Layers panel, you'll see up here in Box Top we have another group. So let's make another layer, and we're going to call this Box Bottom. So let's select that group, say Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste in Place. And you see we have 2 copies. We're going to pick up that top copy and put it on in Box Bottom. Then we can pick up that group and move it down to this bottom box. At this point, you probably want to lock the top of the top one and move that box bottom down to right above background. And we need to move this down to the very center of this box. Now it's a little bit hard to see because the background's behind it. We're going to click on it once, which will click the group. Then we're going to double click to get just the Walter Wacky part, not the word Candy Company. And on Candy Company, we need to add a 1-point white stroke. Now, if you did that wrong, you're going to get rid of the Candy Company. So make sure that you are only selected on the Walter Wacky part, not on the Candy Company. And how I did that again is I clicked once to get in the group, and then I double clicked on Walter Wacky to get into isolation mode. So I'm just on Walter Wacky, and I added a 1-point white stroke. Click anywhere off to get back out of isolation mode. Okay, let's save, Control S. So we're really close to being done. We can go ahead and close this Scribble Effects if you still have it open. One of the things that you should check before you send it to a printer, we're going to go up here to Effect and say Document Raster Effects Settings. And it's just kind of showing you the minimum resolution for print needs to be 300 ppi. So we are 300. CMYK is what we need for print. So various things that you can check. The book's just showing you what that looks like. So all of that should be fine. The next step is to go into Window and go to Flattener Preview, which is right here. You can make it bigger and go ahead and hit refresh. And it's showing you what it's going to look like after, when it's actually printed, when everything's flattened down into one. You can click up here and there's some options, to show quick preview, everything that you want to do. So that's another thing you check before you send it to the printer. So all that looks fine. You can close that out. And we need to say File, Save As. And we want to put it on our work in progress. But this time I want to change it to a PDF because most printers want a PDF. So say Adobe PDF, Save. It's going to pop this up. We need to choose High Quality Print. Now, different printers are going to tell you what they want. The book has just given us, as if it is our printer. So we need to choose Acrobat 4. And there's all kind of different choices that they may ask you for. Go down to Advanced and make sure it's on High Resolution. And we're going to click Yes, we're ready. Save PDF. So when you go back to your work in progress folder, you're going to have 2 files, and you can submit both of those this week for your candy packaging. So I hope you've learned a lot. That's it. We're done.